Have you ever reached the end of the day and wondered where all your time went? You woke up early, you worked hard, you answered emails, you ran errands, you handled responsibilities, and yet somehow, despite being busy all day, you still feel like you didn't accomplish what mattered the most. What if the greatest threat to your purpose isn't failure? What if it isn't laziness? What if it's hurry? Today we're going to talk about a book that completely challenged the way I think about time, productivity, faith, family, and success. It's called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer. And if you've ever felt overwhelmed, distracted, exhausted, or like life is moving faster than you can keep up with, this message may be exactly what you need to hear. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Purposeful Man. Today, I want to talk about a book that challenged me in a way I wasn't expecting. The book is The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer. Now, when I first picked up this book, I assumed it would be another time management book filled with tips on productivity, calendars, and getting more done. But that's not what this book is all about. In fact, the author's main argument is that our biggest problem isn't that we're too busy, it's that we've become addicted to hurry. And according to the author, hurry is one of the greatest threats to our spiritual lives, our relationships, our health, and ultimately our sense of purpose. As I read this book, I found myself reflecting on my own life. As a military officer, a husband, father, man of faith, and now a content creator, there are always demands competing for my attention. There is always another email to answer, another meeting to attend, another project to complete, another goal to chase. And before we know it, we can spend our entire lives moving from one task to the next without ever slowing down long enough to truly enjoy the experience. That's what this book addresses. So today, I'd like to share 4 major lessons I took away from the ruthless elimination of hurry. Lesson number 1. Hurry is not just a schedule problem. It is a heart problem. One of the most powerful ideas in the book is that hurry isn't simply being busy. It's an internal condition. You can be busy without being hurried. And you can have very little to do, yet still feel rushed all the time. The author points out that when we're constantly rushing, we become impatient. We become distracted. We become irritable. And often, the people that suffer the most are the ones that are closest to us. Our spouses, our children, our coworkers, our friends. Think about it. Have you ever found yourself becoming frustrated over something that normally wouldn't have bothered you? Have you ever been physically present but mentally somewhere else? I know I have. The author suggests that hurry slowly erodes our ability to love others well, even ourselves. And that's a sobering thought because Jesus was never rushed. Now, he was busy, but he was never hurried. Even when he was informed that his friend Lazarus was sick, who subsequently died but was later resurrected by Jesus for the honor of God, no matter how many people wanted his attention, he remained calm, present, and purposeful. Lesson number 2. Technology is constantly fighting for our attention. The second lesson that stood out to me is how much our attention is being consumed by technology. Now, don't get me wrong. Technology is a wonderful tool. It allows us to stay connected. It allows us to learn. It allows me to create content like this and be able to connect with you. But technology can also become a master instead of a servant. Many of us wake up and immediately check our phones. We scroll through social media throughout the day. We answer messages even while we're having dinner. We consume more information in a single day than previous generations consumed in weeks in some cases. And the result is that our mind never truly rests. We're always connected, but rarely present. The author also argues that attention is one of our most valued resources. And if we allow everything to compete for our attention, we'll eventually lose the ability to focus on what matters the most. And what matters the most? For instance, our relationship with God, our families, our personal growth, and our purpose. This section really challenged me because it forced me to ask a very difficult question. Am I controlling technology, or is technology controlling me? Lesson number 3. We need margin in our lives. The third lesson is the importance of margin. Margin is simply the space between our load and our limits. Unfortunately, many of us live with very little or no margins at all in our lives. Our schedules are packed, our finances are stretched thin, our calendars are overflowing and overwhelming, and every unexpected problem feels like a crisis because there is no room left. The author argues that margin isn't laziness, it's actually wisdom. Even God built rhythm of rest into creation. Throughout Scripture, we see the importance of rest, reflection, and renewal. Yet many of us wear busyness like a badge of honor. We often equate with being busy as with being important. But being busy doesn't necessarily mean we're being effective. In fact, some of the most important work in life happens during moments of reflection, prayer, and intentional rest. If every minute of every day is occupied, we leave little room for God to guide us, teach us, and shape us. And the last lesson, number 4, the solution is not more productivity, it's spiritual formation. Perhaps my favorite lesson from the book is that the solution isn't learning how to squeeze more activities into our day. The solution is becoming the kind of person who can live at the pace of Jesus. The author recommends several spiritual practices: silence, solitude, Sabbath, simplicity, and slowing down. These practices aren't about doing less for the sake of doing less. They're about creating space for what matters the most. Creating space to hear God's voice. Creating space to strengthen our relationships with others. Creating space to think. And creating space to become more intentional. I believe this is one of the reasons many people today feel so exhausted despite all the conveniences modern life provides. We've become more efficient than ever before, but not necessarily more fulfilled. Now here's my personal reflection. As I finished reading this book, I realized that the challenge isn't simply removing hurry from my calendar, it's removing hurry from my heart. For me, that means being more intentional with my time, being fully present with my wife and my children and not scanning my phone while they're talking to me, protecting time for prayer and reflection, and remembering that my worth is not determined by how much I can accomplish in a day. It's determined by who I am becoming every day. This book reminded me that success is not simply reaching goals. Success is becoming the person God created you to be while you pursue those goals. And if we achieve everything on our to-do list but lose our peace, our relationships, and our connection with God, then we've missed something truly important. So here's the final thought. So would I recommend this book, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, to you? Absolutely. In a culture that constantly tells us to move faster, especially here in the West, consume more and accomplish more, this book serves as an important reminder that sometimes the most productive thing we can do is actually slow down. Not because we're giving up, not because we're becoming lazy, but because we've chosen to live intentionally, purposefully, and in alignment with what truly matters in our lives. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you read this book? Have you heard of this book? Do you struggle with hurry in your own life? What practical steps have helped you to slow down and focus on what matters the most? I'd appreciate if you would leave a comment below. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need this message. Thanks again for joining me on this journey. Until next time, stay grounded in faith, keep growing intentionally, and continue becoming the person that God has called you to be.